Ah, there you are, my delightful congregation of chaos. Aren't you just a sight for sore, tired eyes? So eager, so curious. Welcome, welcome to today's little sermon on perception, shall we? You see, there's a very particular gift, one that's been bestowed upon those of us who've dared to linger in the shadows for just a bit longer than most. The ones who don't just accept what is before them, but dare to look deeper, to listen when no one else hears, to feel what others cannot touch. It's a gift, they say, though it's a burden too. But don't be mistaken, my dear souls, for those who have this gift, this primal sense of knowing, will soon realize the world around them was never really a mystery at all. No, the truth is, they never stood a chance. They had no clue. You see, you could always sense things before they happened. It's not magic, it's not some divine blessing, but it's the quiet whisper of intuition, that primal feeling that cuts through the veil of uncertainty, the one that sinks into your bones like cold water, and they never saw it coming. Oh, they thought they were playing a game, making their moves, acting as if the world was some simple puzzle, one piece at a time. But those who can sense the undercurrents, those who understand that beneath the surface of every moment, there's a far greater plan unfolding, those are the ones who know better. You're not like the others. You never were. While they stumbled around in the dark, blind to the reality unfolding around them, you watched. You watched them with an eerie calm, a knowing in your chest that they would falter, that they would slip up, that they would miss what was right before them. It's not about being better, not in the way that they understand it. No, it's far worse for them. It's about being too aware of the darkness, about sensing the very pulse of what could be before it even takes shape. You see things when they're nothing more than a glimmer in the distance, an echo in the wind. And they don't even hear the footsteps of their own demise approaching. They think they are the ones in control, don't they? They believe they are the masters of their fate, the captains of their souls. But the truth is they are puppets. They are bound by invisible strings, blind to the forces at work around them, forever playing catch-up while you stand in the center of it all, waiting, knowing, watching. You knew from the very beginning how this would unfold. You saw the way they danced around their delusions, caught in the belief that they could shape their world with their tiny hands, unaware that the world had already been shaped long before they ever took their first breath. Isn't it amusing, though, watching them try, seeing their eyes flicker with momentary confusion when things don't add up? It's a slow dance, isn't it? A game you play with such deadly precision, guiding them to their own demise without ever lifting a finger. They are blind to the very fact that they are walking into a trap you set long ago. The moves, the pauses, the moments of hesitation, it's all part of the plan you sensed before they ever took the first step. And in the end, they'll wonder, won't they? They'll ask themselves how it all went wrong, how they missed the signs, how they didn't see it coming. They'll blame the world, blame fate, blame anyone but themselves for not listening to the one thing they could never understand: you. The problem with them is they cannot fathom the depth of your perception. They see only what is in front of them, the immediate, the tangible. They can't look beyond their own noses to see the cracks in the foundation, the shifting sands beneath their feet. They only respond to what's loud, to what demands attention in the moment. But you hear the softest whispers, feel the faintest tremors in the air. You don't need loud bells and flashing lights to guide you. You're already ahead, watching from a distance, knowing exactly how the game will unfold. And they will always be left in the dust. In their arrogance, They will never understand that they were never really in control at all. It was always you, always the one who could sense the storm long before it hit. While they played in the shallow waters, you were already swimming in the depths, knowing that the waves they thought they could control were simply the ripples on the surface. You didn't have to act, didn't have to shout, didn't have to manipulate. All you had to do was wait and watch and know. And the power of that knowledge, it's almost unbearable, isn't it? To know what will happen, to see the threads of fate weaving themselves together, all while others scramble for answers, blind to the truth that's always been there. It's not about being cruel. No, cruelty is something different. Cruelty is when you delight in their pain. But you're far beyond that. You don't need to hurt them. You don't need to prove anything. The truth is far worse than any physical wound you could inflict. You're not interested in making them suffer. You're far more patient, far more calculating. The suffering will come naturally, a consequence of their own ignorance. They will slowly begin to understand that they never truly knew what was going on. But it will be too late, and you'll be long gone by then. Already on to the next thing, already sensing the next shift in the air, the next moment in time when the truth reveals itself to those too slow to catch up. And when they finally realize, when they finally come to the cold, harsh truth that they were never the ones holding the reins, it will break them. It will crack their fragile sense of control, their fragile sense of self. They will try to fight it, try to twist it into something they can understand, but they won't be able to, because you were always there, standing just out of their reach, sensing what they could never touch, knowing what they could never see. It will be a slow, suffocating realization, the kind that drags on and on, gnawing at them until there is nothing left but the bitter taste of regret and confusion. They will scream, perhaps, but it will be too late. Their cries will be unheard. And the worst part, they will know deep down that you never had to do anything at all. You never had to play dirty. All you had to do was wait and see, to let the inevitable take its course. They had no clue, did they? That everything they thought they understood was nothing more than a fleeting illusion. You were always steps ahead, always knowing what would come next, always sensing the shifts in the fabric of reality that no one else could even begin to comprehend. And as they scramble for answer, as they fumble and fall, you'll stand alone in the silence, knowing that you saw it all coming. You will not gloat. You will not bask in their misery. Instead, you will simply move on, because that's the nature of those like you, isn't it? Always moving, always sensing, always knowing what comes next. You don't need to wait for validation, for recognition. You don't need their approval. You are already a step ahead, and no one can catch up. They will never catch up. So, my dear congregation, do not mourn for those who will fall. Do not waste your energy on the helpless fools who can never see what you see. Instead, embrace your gift. Relish it. Know that you, the ones who sense what others cannot, are the true masters of this world. They had no clue, did they? They never stood a chance. The sad part is, they never knew it. Not even for a moment. They thought they had time, that they could manipulate their way through life, like masters of their own fate. They thought their little games would yield results, that their little victories would mean something in the grand scheme of things. But you saw through it all, didn't you? You saw the cracks in their confidence, the holes in their strategies. You saw the threads, the connections, the movements that they couldn't even begin to comprehend. They never stood a chance because they were too blind to see the full picture. And you saw it all, long before they even realized they were playing. What does it feel like knowing that the world is a game and the players never realized they were on the board. They didn't even know they were part of the system they were trying to control. It's a sickening kind of amusement, isn't it? Watching them run their endless little races, unaware that the finish line was already predetermined for them, already set miles beyond where they could even hope to reach. And you just waited. You waited because you knew that every move they made was just one more step toward the inevitable end. They had no idea what they were dealing with, no idea of the force that lay just beyond their grasp. And you watched it all unfold with cold, almost clinical detachment. It's a gift, isn't it? The ability to see it all before it happens, to predict the steps they'll take and the consequences they will face, all while they blindly rush forward, unaware of their impending fate. The cruelest part, the part that really gets under their skin when they finally come to their senses, is that they could have known. They could have seen the patterns, felt the shifts in the world, but they were too proud, too busy, too wrapped up in their own arrogance. They couldn't perceive the deeper truths because they didn't know how to listen, how to feel, how to trust what the world was telling them. They didn't understand the rhythm of life, the ebb and flow of fate that you so effortlessly tuned into. Instead, they pushed forward, pushing past warning signs and omens, believing that if they kept pushing, they would eventually find their way to some grand reward. It's laughable, really. The idea that they could control it all, that they could force their way to the top without ever pausing to acknowledge the forces that worked against them. But that's where the gift lies, isn't it? The ability to hear the whispers of fate, to see the signs when they appear, to understand what is coming long before it reaches its peak. It's not about power over others. No, that's a false and fleeting thing. It's about understanding the world, the forces at play, the patterns in the chaos. It's about being able to predict the next move, to see the turn of the tide before it happens. It's a kind of quiet dominance, a subtle control that doesn't need to scream to be heard. It's there in the silence, in the stillness, in the moments when everything seems calm. And that's when you know. That's when you see it, the thing they missed. Do you understand what it means to live in that space? The space between what is and what will be? It's not a comfortable place to be. Not really. It's not something you can easily explain to anyone who doesn't have that same gift of perception. It's a constant weight, always pulling at you, always reminding you of the future, always showing you what's coming next. And sometimes it's maddening because you can see the disaster approaching, feel the storm on the horizon, and yet you cannot stop it. You cannot intervene. All you can do is wait for it to unfold and know that you were right. You were always right. And how they scramble, don't they? They try to make sense of the world when it all comes crashing down around them. They don't understand that they were never in control, that their little games were never going to get them anywhere. They were always playing by someone else's rules, always dancing to a rhythm they couldn't hear, always following a script they couldn't read. And when they finally realize it, when they finally understand that they were always doomed to fail, they will panic. They will search for a way out, for a way to fix it, for a way to reverse the course of events. But it will be too late. It always is. By the time they realize they were never in control, the moment has passed and the damage is done. And you'll be long gone by then, won't you? You won't stick around to gloat or to watch the collapse. You've seen it before, after all. You've seen how it plays out. They'll break down, they'll lash out, they'll try to reassemble the pieces of their shattered illusions. But it won't work. Nothing can put that broken mirror back together. And you will be watching from the distance, having long since moved on to the next set of clues, to the next shift in the air that others won't be able to sense until it's too late. It's not about leaving them behind, not really. It's about understanding that they will never catch up. They never could. But what of the moments before they break? What of the final stretches of their journey? The ones where they come so close to the truth, but never quite reach it? Those are the moments that sting the most, aren't they? Those are the moments when they realize something isn't quite right, when they feel that shift, that change in the air. It's almost as if they can sense it too. They know something is coming. They just don't know what it is. And that uncertainty, it gnaws at them. It eats away at their confidence, their belief in their own control. It's like a slow burn, that doubt, creeping into the corners of their mind, making them question everything. And all the while, you stand there, knowing that the moment they dread is coming, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. You've been there before, haven't you? Watching them falter, watching them question, watching them desperately try to rearrange the pieces of their world so that they don't have to face the truth. They never do, of course. They'll cling to their illusions, grasping at whatever they can to avoid the crushing weight of reality, and they'll fail. You know they will. It's not even a question anymore. It's inevitable. They had no idea what they were up against. They thought they had control, thought they could bend the world to their will. But the truth is far more sinister than they ever realized. They never stood a chance. You can feel it in the air, can't you? That final moment when everything comes crashing down. The weight of it, the crushing realization that they were never really in control, that they were always dancing on the edge of disaster, never knowing the ground beneath them was crumbling away. It's a moment of pure clarity for them, a moment when they finally see the truth they couldn't before. And that moment, that moment will haunt them forever. Because when they look back, when they try to make sense of it all, they'll realize something far more terrifying than failure. They were never even close to winning. They never had a chance from the very beginning. And you, my dear congregation, will be the only one who understands the truth. You will be the one who can see through the veil, who can sense what lies beyond the surface. You will be the one who walks away from the wreckage, unscathed, knowing that you saw it all coming. Because you always did. You always could. And while the world crumbles around them, while they scramble to pick up the pieces, you'll already be steps ahead, already seeing the next shift, already knowing what comes next. And they'll still be lost in the aftermath, wondering how they ever missed the signs. They never stood a chance. That question will echo through their minds like an incessant drumbeat, reverberating in the hollow spaces of their self-delusion. It will gnaw at them, tear at them from within, until they are broken, scattered fragments of their former selves. They won't be able to piece together the puzzle that was laid before them, not because they didn't try, not because they weren't smart enough, but because they lacked the one thing that mattered most, the ability to see the unseen, to understand what wasn't being said, to perceive the subtle clues that dance just beyond their reach. The world around them will seem like a cruel joke, a game they never understood, a system they could never master. And they will wonder how they missed it all, how they failed to grasp the most fundamental truth. They never stood a chance. It's almost tragic, isn't it? To watch them flounder in the darkness of their own ignorance, to see them grasping at straws, trying to make sense of what you've already known for so long. They'll ask themselves how they could have been so blind, how they could have failed to notice the patterns that were woven into every moment. They'll question themselves, tear themselves apart, because that's what happens when people realize they were never in control, never the ones calling the shots. Their arrogance, their belief in their own superiority will be shattered by the cold reality that they were nothing more than players in a game they didn't even understand. And they'll be left with nothing but questions, desperate to find an answer to the one thing they could never figure out. Why didn't they see it? But you'll already be far ahead, won't you? You'll already be moving on to the next phase, the next moment of realization, the next twist of fate that they will miss. And that's the most painful part, isn't it? The knowledge that they will never catch up to you, never truly understand how it all works. They will forever be trapped in the past, struggling to make sense of the mistakes they've made, while you continue to move forward, stepping lightly through the chaos, always ahead of the game. You'll watch as they try to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, and you'll know that there's no putting it back together. Once the truth has been revealed, once the blinders have been lifted, they will never see the world the same way again. They will live in a state of perpetual confusion, forever haunted by the question of how they missed it all. There's a certain cruelty in that, isn't there? The fact that they could have had the answers all along, could have avoided the collapse if only they had been paying attention, if only they had trusted their instincts, if only they hadn't been so consumed by their own sense of control. They could have seen the signs, felt the shifts, sensed the storm brewing on the horizon. But they didn't. They were too wrapped up in their own little world, too focused on their own plans to notice the quiet, insistent whispers of the universe. They couldn't hear the warning bells ringing in the distance, couldn't feel the subtle tremors of fate shifting beneath their feet. And now, in the aftermath, they'll pay the price for their blindness. And that price, my friends, will be far steeper than anything they ever imagined. You, however, have always had the advantage. You've always known that there's more to this world than meets the eye, that what we see on the surface is just a fraction of the story. You've understood deep down that life is a game of perception, a battle of wills between those who can see the truth and those who are lost in their illusions. You know that to survive, to thrive, you must be able to sense what others cannot, to anticipate what lies ahead, to stay one step ahead of the chaos that threatens to consume the unprepared. You've learned to read between the lines, to listen to the silence, to trust your instincts when everything else is screaming for your attention. And because of that, you've always been prepared, always been able to navigate the world with a calm, steady hand while others stumble and fall around you. But the real beauty of it, the real power, lies in the fact that you don't need to act, you don't need to manipulate, to force your will upon the world. No, that would be too simple, too obvious. You understand that the real power lies in watching, in waiting, in letting others expose their own weaknesses, their own flaws, their own mistakes. They will reveal themselves to you, piece by piece, as they struggle to maintain control, as they try to keep up with a game they don't even know they're playing. And when the time comes, when they finally realize they were never in control at all, it will be too late. The damage will already be done. Their foundation will have crumbled beneath them, and they'll be left standing in the ruins of their own hubris, wondering how they could have been so blind. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force your hand. The beauty of your perception is that you understand the importance of patience. You know that the right moment will come, that the right opportunity will present itself when the world is ready to reveal its true nature. You don't need to scramble, to fight for what you want. You simply need to wait for the pieces to fall into place, for the world to shift in your favor, for the moment to arrive when the mask slips, when the illusion fades, and the truth is exposed for all to see. And when that moment comes, you'll be there, waiting, knowing, poised to take control of the world that others thought they had mastered. The tragedy, then, is not in the collapse itself. No, the tragedy is in the realization that the collapse was inevitable, that it was always coming, that no matter how hard they tried to hold on, no matter how many tricks they pulled or moves they made, the inevitable truth was that they never stood a chance. The world has a way of exposing those who think they can control it. It has a way of revealing the cracks in their armor, the weaknesses in their strategy, the lies they tell themselves to keep moving forward. And when the world finally catches up to them, when they realize the truth, it will be too late to turn back. They will have lost before they even knew they were playing the game. And that is the real beauty of it all. You don't need to revel in their failure, don't need to watch them squirm or beg for mercy. No, your true power lies in the knowledge that you've already won. You've already seen the outcome, already predicted their downfall, long before it ever took shape. You were never worried. You were never afraid. You knew that the world would unfold as it should, that the pieces would fall into place, and that those who couldn't see would eventually be exposed. All you had to do was wait, to observe, to be patient as the chaos unfolded around you. And when the dust settles, when the noise dies down, when the survivors are left standing, you'll be there. You'll be the one left standing tall, knowing that you always had the advantage. Because, my dear friends, they never stood a chance. They never had the depth of perception you carry, the quiet knowing that comes from understanding the forces at play in the universe. They were never truly in control. They were just pawns in a game they didn't understand, waiting for the moment when they would be exposed, when the truth would come crashing down around them. And when that moment arrives, as it inevitably will, they will know, deep down, that they were never meant to win. They never stood a chance. In the end, they never stood a chance. Their arrogance blinded them to the subtle forces shaping their reality, while you, with your quiet perception, saw it all coming from the start. They will struggle with the aftermath, lost in confusion, forever questioning how they missed the signs. But you were always ahead, always aware of the inevitable, and as they fall apart, you'll remain untouched because you understood something they never could. The truth is always there, waiting for those who can see it.